Proud of you. I'm so glad you're there. I knew you'd make it. And how was your senior year?
It was really good. it was kind of weird because I had you for 2 years, so it was just like weird not having you there. And then, but it was really good. I had a lot of fun.
Did you
Good.
have Miss Lee or Miss whoever replaced me? They told me her name, but I forget it.
For senior
The
year?
the one that replaced you, I had Miss Bowen. I had them
Oh,
both at the beginning, but then they split them, and so I got Miss Bowen.
got it.
Oh.
Sorry, Jake. We have to cover the basics
No, no.
because I want to know like a little bit of Montse and what's going on with her before
No,
we get
no.
into like the questions that are relevant to the podcast. Welcome everybody to the show. Today we have a special guest. It's big. It's important for the Pod and Deliver podcast to have a former student of mine, Montse Padilla. Montse, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I feel great. I'm so excited to have you. I hope it starts a tradition to have some of my former students because it's a thrill of mine. And I didn't want to say this before the video started. I want to say this to you, and I'll say this to you, Jacob.
Yes.
The class that Montse was in my last year of teaching
Mhm.
was maybe my favorite. I hate to say this because I don't like to talk about favorites. Maybe my favorite class ever.
Whoa.
It was to me and Miss Adriana, and I, because once I say because of her, it is because of her. It is because of Montse and several other students. But
Wow.
Montse, when Miss Adriana and I talked right before it was sixth period, we would say, this isn't even work. This is just fun. Having that class together for me was just fun. Maybe into the last, I don't want to put anybody down, but there was a rough student that came in towards the end of that year, but we won't talk about him. He was cool too, though. He was fine. But it was just pleasure. There were some moments that
Was it
were,
an English class?
it was English. It was an
Oh.
English class, but the students were so pleasant and so gifted.
Hmm.
And it just felt like it wasn't much work. It was just a good time. And I want to just say this and I'll shut up. And I want to ask you because this podcast isn't just about old times and reflections, but I just want to say this once. Every year I give a student like an award, like a gift, a best student award, and I'm of the belief you don't give a bunch. I remember one of Miss Fletcher, I think her name was. I forget her name, Jake, at Elizabeth Street. She used
Yeah.
to give 20. No, I don't want to exact. She gave like 10 awards out to each
Hmm.
class. I'm like, that's not an award. You want to kind of specify one or two at the most. But I give one best student award. In that class, I gave out five. I just couldn't pick one.
I would say
And
so you
was
okay.
one of them.
Okay, it is tough.
It's tough when you have such gifted or great, not just academic, you might have a student who's just supportive. And so when I think of Monset, I kind of shared the award because she was supportive. She was supportive of me and Miss Adriana and the class. I couldn't single her, I couldn't just not bring her into it because she helped me run the class and I really appreciate it. Monset, there was never a no from you. It was always yes, what can I do? How can I help? And
I
you
blame
helped.
the parents. She probably has wonderful parents.
Absolutely. I remember her parent. I remember her mother talking. She had a little sister, and her little sister always had something to say. And I thought, there's two Monses in the world. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now, Monse. And
Well, I wish you would sing your praises towards me that way once in a while, Ruben. Like what a wonderful brother I've been.
it's all negative towards you.
And all right.
I guess we would start, Monse, with Instagram post you recently released after you graduated, and congratulations from you're graduating from high school.
Thank you.
And you posted on Instagram that you now begin your journey towards becoming a teacher. And I guess, and I think you had indicated that you had wanted to since you were small. What is it? What inspired you to become a teacher?
So that's kind of been a dream since I was in like kindergarten. Like, cause I had this teacher, hold on. Okay, sorry. Growing up, I was bullied a lot. So this teacher in kindergarten, she would always like advocate for me, and she would always like, I guess, like make sure like the kids knew that it wasn't right. And so I would always look up to her. And so at my old school where I went to for elementary and middle school, we would have career days, and I would every year I would dress up as her. And so I would always be like, I want to be like Miss Jones when I grow up. And so then there were times where I would be like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher. What if I want to do photography? What if I want to do this? But I always came back to wanting to be a teacher. And then at Granada, I had so many teachers that supported me in like so many amazing ways. And in junior year, I was talking to one of my teachers in my learning lab, and she was like, "Okay, so what are you gonna do?" And I was like, "I want to be a teacher, but I don't know. I'm a little scared." I was still a little on the fence, and she just like constantly pushed me to like do better and to like she like was like, "Okay, so there's this way that you can go. There's this way." And she just basically broke it down for me, and it's just like she helped me realize that teaching is really something that I do want to do, and like specifically like teach younger kids.
Elementary level then.
Yeah, like maybe not elementary, like preschool type of thing.
Oh,
Like
wow. Okay.
little. Yeah.
Totally see it. I completely see that would be a good fit for you. Because you have a nurturing style to you. You have a caring style. I could see that. I do want to say how great it is that you dressed up for career day as your teacher, not a general teacher, but that specific teacher. So
Huh.
uh, we recently had a podcast where we talked to somebody who mentioned the importance of reaching the younger demographic, the young children, spending time as element and he did a whole segment on elementary school teachers, and sometimes they're forgotten and their importance of society. And so I really like this that you mentioned that. It really honored your teacher once, and I want to say that's great. I guess it's always interesting to me. I try to put this in the surveys. Do you remember the surveys I used to give out? Once said would ask you questions about your interest and what you think of the class. Do you remember me
Yeah.
doing that? I'm
Yes.
just I'm fascinated to see, because we ask each other these questions. Now I want to see what, in terms of what makes an effective teacher. What do you think makes an effective teacher?
Something I think makes an effective teacher. This question I kind of struggled on, and I did text Miss A about it, and I was like, Miss A, I don't know what to like say. And then she's like, you know what to say. And so something that I think makes an effective teacher is a teacher that like not only is teaching, but sets time to get to know their students. Like it's not just about like the teaching, it's about getting to know them and how they learn, and and like understanding their students. Like for example, I had a teacher, and they would bond with us over food, and I would constantly argue with him whether or not bacon goes on mac and cheese. And it would just make, which it does, it does go on mac and cheese.
Bacon goes on everything, I think.
Wrong answer, Jacob.
No.
No?
Are we bringing the argument into the podcast, Mr. Aguilar?
Well, it's probably two
So
against
funny.
one.
It's so weird that you bringing this up, because it was so part of the discussion while we were there that I was thinking about so many other things that I had forgotten about this discussion about mac and cheese. I'm correct when I say mac and cheese is so delicious on its own, it doesn't need a partner to help it. Montse said wrong. Bacon is fine with mac and cheese. In fact, it elevates it. And I was outnumbered, but it became, I agree with you. Once we kind of learned about each other from those discussions. I thought that was kind of fun. I
Just gives it an umph. It makes the mac and cheese better.
Amen.
Okay, I'm gonna just kind of say you kind of win, because I did have it about a year, a few 6 months ago down the street, and it was pretty fantastic. So I like that. I guess when in general, I want to add something to this, Monse, that you might not know. Last year, my last year, which was 2 years ago, there was a push from the school from Granada to really make a bigger emphasis on connecting with our students through non-content ways, through not necessarily delivering the content only, but also maybe connecting with you through different games and different things. And I want to say that I'm not that type of teacher to do that, but Granada gave us the green light to put down the content and make connections, have students make connections with each other and with the teacher and the staff. Do you remember, Montse, where we spent a whole week just playing icebreakers and different games? Do you remember we did that?
Yep.
Did you
We
like
played
that?
Mafia and a bunch of other
Yes.
games.
Mafia and a bunch of other games.
Okay.
So Jacob, what did you ask?
I was wondering if did you enjoy that, Monse? Because that's a whole week.
It was I think like by Wednesday we were kind of like, okay, is this dude gonna teach us or not? And
Does he
and
know
then
anything about English?
we were like, you know what? It's a free week. We're like, it's fine.
You know what? A couple of things I want to say about that week. It was very hard for me to do that, and it was uncomfortable for me. But I remember thinking, I'm asking my students to do some uncomfortable things. If it's uncomfortable for me, I need to embrace it. And it was at first. I go, this is not right. But let's just play it out for a week. And we did. And I go, how far can we do this? Let's go by Wednesday. I agree. I'm like, should I finish it? Let's do it. So we finished. We did the whole week and we didn't do any content. It was right after winter break. And so at the end of the year, I did student surveys and I asked the classes, what worked in the class, what didn't, what was, and I remember the student, I don't know if you know Isabella, but it was a different class. She said, Isabella, okay, cool. She said that week she got to know a couple of students in the class, and she otherwise wouldn't have probably got to know them. She became friends with a couple of these students through the icebreakers and the games that we were playing. And I thought, oh, that is interesting. I'm so glad we did that because I realized the importance of the social connections that had been lost because of the COVID and the shutdown. So it was a real valuable time, and so I'm glad we did it.
I was going to ask something. Is that
Yeah.
okay, Ruben? Monse, when you were at school and you had Mr. Aguilar, besides that week and besides, was there anything like you enjoyed in his class, like a book or a poem? I always wanted to ask somebody Ruben taught, like a book that maybe was introduced, or a poem or a short story that you liked. Can you recall anything like that you enjoyed?
So for books that he taught, they were all like, I feel like really good books because
Okay.
we would do the book and then we would also watch the adaptation. And
Oh.
so it just like evened it out, you know what I mean? Like it was
Mm-hmm.
like we're not just sitting there reading the book for the whole period. But for me, like a book that was really impactful was a book I read in silent reading. And then when Mr. Aguilar retired, he gave me the whole series, and I still have it. I haven't finished it, but I have the whole series. And
What is
so
that?
it's this book, it's The Face on the Milk Carton, and I read it during silent reading and I finished the first book. Like we had like 10 minutes and I finished it in like a month. And like I would literally like I was like attached to the book. Like sometimes Miss Adriana would like have to pry it out of my hands, like, once you have to put the book down. And I'm like,
Oh,
no.
that's great.
Yeah.
A couple of things. By the way, Miss Adriana, she's the para for that class, and miss her. Still talk to her, but miss working with her. Do want to say that Montse just pleased her teacher right now because she said we not only read the book, but we saw the adaptation. She didn't say we saw the movie. And I mentioned, and she learned and she
Very good.
remembered. I really appreciate that because it sounds like, oh, we're watching movies in Mr. Aguilar's class. We're watching the adaptation to support our learning and the reading. So good one, Montse. And so I like that. Very cool. I guess now this is not necessarily an academic question, although it can be, and that is we don't really know what's going on with you. We have a sense of it as teachers, but is there something that we don't know? I will tell you how a lot of teachers feel, and I kind of got this after COVID, after the shutdowns, and when we came back. I noticed once a change among the students' um, behaviors. Uh, I'm painting broadly, of course, but I saw more fights. I saw more things that disturbed me, and I think influenced the school to change how we approach the student. But I guess my question is there something that you feel that teachers don't know about students that you wish that we did know?
Um, I feel like sometimes there are certain teachers that kind of just like they don't care about the student per se, they just care about getting the material out to the student. And so they don't like care like, oh, is are they gonna really like engage with this assignment? They're just like they have to do this book work. It's like and I feel like it's just a little frustrating for certain students, like especially students with disabilities. I feel like we don't really learn from just book work. Like there we have different ways of learning. And then like having like all students do like the same assignment when not everyone learns the same way, that can get a little frustrating. And then how certain teachers, I feel like with the fight aspect, sometimes it's just like, oh, like they're having like a bad day at home and then they come to school and like the teachers aren't treating them like, oh, you didn't do your homework, like, oh well, like sucks, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's not my problem. And it's just like, no, like being like a little more understanding and lenient with the student, if that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense. And it's something that we have to remind ourselves
Mm.
because don't we, Jake? Like we feel
Yeah.
like we have this content and we have these high standards and we don't, I guess we as teachers don't want to appear soft, that we just take things, but I have
But
my own reflections, but what do you think, Jake?
no, I was gonna say, Monse, we actually um reviewed a film recently titled About a Teacher. And one of the things that this teacher figured out was that, hey, he needs to make those connections with the students and get to see if they're falling asleep in class, ask them, why are you falling asleep in class? Now, you're mentioning about fighting. If there's fighting, there might be something going on in that kid's life. Why aggravate him more or her? Why do that? And I think what you're saying is teachers need to kind of see more context, see exactly what's going on, do a little homework, do a little research on the child, maybe ask some questions, right? I mean, sometimes we just go right to our content, and I know we all could be guilty of that because we are also pressured to get content out. But the reality is that you guys are human beings, and you guys need to be treated like that, with respect. So yeah.
Yes, and to the other Mr. Aguilar's point, uh, when a student falls asleep in class, so now I brought up fighting, but maybe smaller behaviors. So with classes, typically there's no fights in the class, but yeah, kid falling asleep, kid going on other websites, students doing this and that. One of the reasons, Monse, that teachers don't like to go up to students and talk to them and ask them, can you tell me why you're falling asleep? Or can you tell me why you're looking at other websites? And I mentioned this in the review, is that we're human. We're at least I'm afraid a student's going to tell me because you're boring. And it's the worst thing. I'm going to tell you my weakness as a person, once. For years, I struggled being boring. Like, like even in my personal life, if I'm going out with a woman and she tells me I'm boring, like that's the worst thing. And if a student thought I was, and if I heard, oh, they don't like your class, it hurts the ego. It hurts my feelings. So I'd rather not have the talk. You know what I mean? I'd rather not, but I have to have the talk and I have to sit. And often the student won't tell me that I'm boring. They'll say, I don't understand. It's too hard for me. And so I'll try to bring more support for that kid. I was very blessed at Granada. It's a very good school because they give a lot of support.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Monse, or no?
Yeah, I feel like for especially students with disabilities, they have a lot of like support for us and a lot of help for us.
Yes, I'm very grateful for those supports. Some of them are still my friends. Some of the
Mm.
support staff, certainly Miss Adriana and a couple of teachers. I don't know if you know Mr. Eisen.
I love Mr. Eisen.
Oh, you do? Cool. I called him this week out of the blue. I just called him. I want to tell you I'm praying for you. That's all I did. And I have no agenda. I just want to tell you I'm praying for you. And I'm thinking about you. And he goes, so thank you for telling me that. And we just had a long talk. And And he's one of those guys that just taught. When I walked in, he gave me some great advice that I never forgot, and I told him that. But yes, so many good people and staff there that I'm still friends with. Uh, so good to hear this. And you know what? You could carry that too when you become a teacher. There are things that I still remember as a kid that teachers did that I still use. I have a good memory, so I remember teachers doing certain things in lessons, and I use them. So I can't believe we've gone this long, Montse. Anything else, Jake, before we get to
The pressing questions regarding
yeah.
music.
Anything else did you want to bring up?
No, I was just I did want to ask just one last question regarding your school. What's one thing you're gonna miss most about being in high school? Because you know what, I think for me and maybe Ruben, I'm not sure how he feels about it, but I reflect on high school every so often, like, oh man, I remember this, and I really enjoy doing that, and so forth. Is there anything that you will miss, or anything that you reflect on maybe in 10 years?
I feel like I'm gonna miss like having like my group, and then like how the support from my teachers, and like the bonds that I created with my teachers. Because I just like I feel like I really bonded with most of my teachers, and like I had like a really good relationship with a lot of them. And so I feel like I'm just gonna miss being able to have that and having that.
Okay. Yeah.
Very true. That's the one thing I really miss
Mhm.
is the students, staff certainly, and students. You miss them, but you also appreciate the gifts and the time. Do want to mention that Montse is very brilliant because these pictures over here, people ask me like, who's in your background when when we have these
Yeah.
Zoom calls and these meetings, and they ask me who is that, and I go, well, this is Montse, this is Tatiana. Montse again, and she created this, you know, collage of pictures and gave it to me on the last day. It's brilliant,
Oh.
Montse, because I have to admit this. There are students that I forget. I do a joke on the stand-up, but it's not a joke. It's actually true. A girl, a woman could walk. I walked up. I don't know. She walked up to me, or I walked up to her, and she said, "Mr. Aguilar," and this is a woman, so I don't know who. I knew it was his former student, and I didn't remember her. And I
Oh,
felt very bad. You were my favorite teacher. And I go, I don't remember you. But I'll never forget you, Monse, because you made these pictures. Very brilliant.
very good.
I try.
So I can't believe we've gone this long into this conversation and we haven't brought up Taylor Swift.
Well, you're a Swiftie, Montse?
Oh,
Big one.
oh.
Really?
To,
Okay.
to the pain of some people in the class and the agony of it. And but I want to ask you because I have my opinion on this question. Of course, my opinion is the correct one, but what Taylor Swift song you never get sick of?
Um, okay. I have been thinking, I get asked this question a lot. Like my friends will be like, "So what's one song?" And I'm like, "One?" Like
I'll allow
I
you two.
can't like
I'll allow you two
two.
because there's
Oh.
we support each other on this podcast,
Hmm.
Okay. I think my top two would be Long Live from her third album, because that's just like my favorite album ever. It's just like I think it's the first album from her that I heard growing up. And so it's like I feel like that song is just like I don't know. I just love that song. And then for my second song, mm, I'm gonna make up my own rules and say I have three. So I have Mirror Ball and You're on Your Own Kid, because I feel like those two songs are very when I went to her concert, You're on Your Own Kid was the song that I got for my surprise song. And I literally like she just started playing it and I started sobbing, like immediate tears. It's just I don't know, I just really resonate with the song. And then Mirror Ball, I also really resonate with the song. And so I feel like those three are just like my songs.
Wow. Are these songs about like breakups or what's going on?
No, Mirror Ball is basically about a person who it's basically like a disco ball. A disco ball has been broken a million times
Uh-huh.
and it still shines. And so it's like a mirror ball is a person in society that's been broken a million times, like bullied a lot, and they still like at the end of the day, they're still happy, they still smile, they still shine.
Nice.
And You're on Your Own Kid is about basically like working for your goals and not having a lot of support and like I don't know like how to explain it. It's just like working for yourself, not for the pleasing of other people.
Okay.
And then Long Live is like her to her fans.
Oh, okay.
I can say, Jacob, that Montse really appreciates that you asked a follow-up question about Taylor Swift. I know her well enough. She thanks you for that.
Then that means you're a big fan. I have come across some Swifties that I don't think they're as big a fan as you are.
Oh,
But
if she went to the concert,
that must have been expensive. Did you have to give a kidney or something, or?
I was seriously considering to get better seats, but I got the pre-sale. It was stressful. You can ask Mr. Aguilar. I missed a full day of school to get tickets.
Mhm.
But I got the tickets. I think I paid 100 and something per ticket. So it
That's a
wasn't
deal.
that bad.
No,
For her tickets, people were paying up to like
That's
20,000 for a ticket. It was
oh,
insane.
jeez.
now
Yeah.
before I give you my answer, which is the correct answer, Jake, do you even know any Taylor Swift songs? Just Jake, that's my first
I'm very embarrassed, Bones. I wish I was prepared. I didn't know this was going to be asked of me because I'm not a Swiftie, but I do once in a while listen to her on the radio. I'll hear a song. Oh, I like that. But I don't know the titles of her songs, so I'm sorry.
We're kicking him off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But maybe this will get my act together.
uh, I just want to say that she's caught a lot of heat in this past year, and I feel like we forget that it's about the songs because she has so many good ones. And I have a special love for her, like you from the past more, because I'm a country fan. I really like country, and I grew to know her from country radio. And so the two songs I never get sick of. I know it's gonna sound boring. Like, all right, Aguilar, come on, give me something fresh. Give me a different. I just love You Belong With Me and Mean. Mean is great.
Love those songs. Those are actually contenders for my list, but I was like, no, I'm gonna have just three. I like limited myself to three.
Yeah. Although, if I had to pick
I was
three,
like, I can't go over.
if I had to pick a more modern one, I really think you can't deny the power, and the video is great, of Me, M-E. Me is, and it's a duet with a very talented singer in his own right. But anyway, I thought you'd appreciate a little conversation on Taylor Swift and Montse. It has been a, just a privilege, a pleasure to have you here.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on Pod and Deliver. You were a very wonderful student, and you're going to be a great teacher.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Thank you very much. Oh, Jacob, you have any?
No, I was gonna say just good luck to you, and you seem like you have a good head on your shoulder, and yeah, God bless.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.